Bhakti Yoga, the path of love and devotion, is praised by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita as the greatest. Let's find out 4 reasons why Bhakti Yoga is the highest path of yoga. Reason number 1: Bhakti can be performed in all stages of life. Krishna can be worshipped in all stages of life through Bhakti. Bhakti can be performed by all people, at all times, in all places, under all conditions. This distinguishes Bhakti from the other 3 processes of yoga, namely karma, jnana, and yoga, which all have restrictions. Even in the wombs of their mother, Maharaj Prahlad and Maharaj Parikshit worshipped the Lord. Even in his very childhood, at the age of only 5 years old, Dhruva Maharaj worshipped the Lord. Even in his full youth, Maharaj Ambarish worshipped the Lord. And even at the last stage of his frustration and old age, Maharaj Dhritarashtra worshipped the Lord. Ajamila worshipped the Lord even at the point of death, and Chitraketu worshipped the Lord even in heaven and in hell. Now let's analyze reason number 2. Even the most unqualified person can perform bhakti. The beauty of devotional service or bhakti is that it's not reserved for a select few. Lord Krishna's mercy knows no boundaries. Whether one is well behaved or ill trained, scholar or illiterate, entangled in worldly desires or has completely renounced, liberated soul or simply aspiring for liberation, experienced or inexperienced in devotional service, all of them can be elevated to the supreme position by discharging devotional service under the proper guidance. Reason number 3. Through bhakti, Krishna can be served with the most simple offerings. The Lord can be served with a flower, a leaf, a fruit, or even little water, which are available in any part of the universe and without any cost. He can be served simply by hearing about His glories. He can be served simply by chanting His holy names, or reading about His activities, or simply adoring and accepting Him in your heart. It is not just what you offer, it is how you offer it. Krishna needs nothing. He already possesses everything, but He cherishes the love behind the act. It is the essence of bhakti, an exchange of love between the devotee and the divine. Whatever you do, offer it with love, and that's what pleases the Lord. Reason number 4. Bhakti has no limits. There are 4 different yoga paths explained in the Gita by Krishna. Karma Yoga, linking with the Supreme Lord without fruitive actions, is the beginning of this path. When karma increases in knowledge and renunciation, the stage is called Jnana Yoga. Jnana means linking with the Supreme Lord with knowledge and philosophical analysis. When Jnana Yoga increases in meditation on the Supersoul by different physical processes, and the mind is on Him, it is called Astanga Yoga. Astanga Yoga means linking with the Supreme Lord by meditation on the Supersoul. And when one surpasses Astanga Yoga and comes to the point of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, it is called Bhakti Yoga, the culminations of all yogas. Linking with the Supreme Lord through loving devotion is bhakti. There are also 3 manifestations of God known as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The absolute truth is qualitatively one and the same, but is realized in 3 different aspects. Brahman is the impersonal conception of the absolute truth. Paramatma is the localized aspect of the Supreme within the heart of all living entities. And Bhagavan is the ultimate realization of the personality of Godhead. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is partially realized as the impersonal Brahman effulgence, the Brahmajyoti. He is further realized as the Paramatma, the Super Soul residing within everything, including the smallest particles of atoms. However, Krishna is fully realized in his Bhagavan feature, the ultimate and complete form, by his pure devotees. Srila Prabhupada beautifully illustrates the 3 features of the Absolute Truth by comparing them with the sunlight, the sun planet, and the sun god. The sun is first perceived as the all-encompassing sunshine. This is called Brahman realization. Going further, one may reach the sun planet, which represents its localized aspect. This is called the Paramatma realization. And going further, one enters the sun planet itself. They will find the sun god, a person, the personality of the sun residing there. This is called Bhagavan realization. Bhagavan realization of the Absolute Truth is the highest because it encompasses the understanding of both Brahman and Paramatma. However, Brahman realization does not provide an understanding of Bhagavan. It's like knowing the sun god. When you know him, you automatically understand the sun planet and the sunlight. But the reverse isn't true. Knowing the sunlight doesn't reveal knowledge of the sun planet or the sun god. To conclude, the highest realization of the absolute truth is the realization of Bhagavan. Now let's connect the three parts of yoga with the three aspects of the absolute truth together. There are three kinds of transcendentalists. The Jnana Yogis, who are also called impersonalists, their goal is to realize Brahman, the impersonal aspect of Bhagavan. There are also Ashtanga Yogis or Raja Yogis, whose goal is to realize Paramatma. And then there are Bhaktas, the Bhakti Yogi. Their goal is to realize Bhagavan. Hence, Bhakti is considered the best because it gives realization of Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yoga only gives realization of Paramatma feature, which represents a partial manifestation of his potencies, while Jnana Yoga gives realization of the impersonal Brahman, the radiant effulgence emanating from Krishna's transcendental body. An example of milk can be given in this regard. When we see milk with our eyes, we see that it is white. When we touch milk, it appears cold. When we smell milk, it appears to have a very good flavor. And when we hear, we understand that it is called milk. Perceiving milk with different senses, we say that it is something white, something cold, something very aromatic. But the complete experience and realization and benefit of milk can only be achieved by tasting the milk with our tongue. Similarly, through the process of Bhakti Yoga, the absolute truth can be realized in its entirety. One can definitely and directly perceive him as the Supreme Person and see him face to face and develop a loving relationship with him. As Brahman and Paramatma realization are imperfect understanding of the absolute truth, so the path which is meant to attain Brahman and Paramatma, namely Jnana and Yoga, are also imperfect and limited. Now let's analyze how the three parts of yoga are limited as compared to the supreme path of bhakti. Karma Yoga. Karma means to follow duties prescribed in scripture, which can be enacted either with material motive or selflessly. Karma, if performed meticulously, can lead one to heaven, where one can enjoy the effects of one's pious karma until it is exhausted, after which one must again take birth. Hence, karma is limited to heavenly enjoyments. Karma cannot lead to God realization. Why then do the Vedas prescribe karma? It is a gradual process for those who are firmly attached to the fruits of their actions. If one engages in karma without material motive, it will instill detachment in the performer, in which case karma becomes a stepping stone to the path of Jnana. Jnana Yoga. Jnana, or the cultivation of knowledge, focuses on distinguishing between spirit and matter. Jnana Yoga emphasizes meditating on the impersonal aspect of the Lord, aiming to attain transcendental knowledge and ultimate salvation. This path is rooted in detachment and the control of the mind and senses, aligning it with Sattva Guna, the mode of goodness. Since Jnana Yoga operates within the limits of the three gunas, which arises from the Lord's external potency, it cannot achieve results beyond the influence of its own. Through realization of Brahman, through Jnana Yoga becomes possible only by the grace of Bhakti, as Bhakti is inherently transcendental and beyond the reach of the three gunas. Bhakti represents the Lord's internal potency, which is far superior to Maya, the external potency. And what is the proof that Jnana Yoga operates within the realm of material nature? Absolute knowledge is in the mode of goodness. Knowledge based on duality is in the mode of passion, and foolish materialistic knowledge is in the mode of ignorance. Knowledge based upon me, however, is understood to be transcendental. Hence, Jnana operates within the modes of material nature. Sri Krishna also confirms this in the Bhagavad Gita. Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhujaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the mode of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. If one engages in the service of Krishna or his plenary expansions, then the modes of nature can be very easily overcome and he comes to the level of Brahman, which is the goal of the Gyanis. So simply by doing bhakti, one can come to the level of Brahman. In conclusion, Jnana is limited to attaining liberation and realizing Brahman, the impersonal aspect of Bhagavan. Merging into Brahman also does not give the highest happiness, as Brahman is devoid of variety and service to Bhagavan. It is monotonous. As for those who are impersonalists and who want to commit spiritual suicide by annihilating the individual existence of the living entity, Krishna helps also by absorbing them into his effulgence. Such impersonalists do not agree to accept the eternal blissful personality of Godhead. Consequently, they cannot relish the bliss of transcendental personal service to the Lord, having extinguished their identity and individuality. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati said, Kaivalyam narakayate. For a bhakta to merge into the Brahmajyoti is worse than hell. And why did he say that? Because there is no blissful exchange of loving devotion with the Bhakta and Bhagavan in a liberation platform called Brahman. There is indeed Brahmananda, the bliss of being in Brahman, but there is no Premananda. There is no exchange of love. That Premananda is what gives the greatest bliss for all Jivatmas. Hence, this is the limitation of following the path of Jnana Yoga. Finally, Astanga Yoga or Raja Yoga. The Astanga Yogi meditates on the Paramatma and their goal is to realize Paramatma. As far as the yoga is concerned, it is limited to the acquirement of mystic power. So we have studied how limited the three different yoga paths are, and when you compare it with Bhakti, Bhakti is unlimited. It is limitless. Bhakti is not only a means to an end, but it continues even after perfection. Unlike Jnana and Yoga, one does not give up devotion after attaining perfection. Rather, one executes it more meticulously without any motive. Karma and Jnana are both products of material nature and are therefore incapable of relieving the problems of the Jivatma. Whereas Bhakti is the internal potency of the Lord and is of superior nature. If one has Bhakti, then knowledge and detachment follow as concomitant effects. In other parts, there is every chance of discrepancies in discharging a particular type of function. But adoption of transcendental devotional service of the Lord has no limit. There is no fear of falling down. The process automatically reaches the final stage by the grace of the Lord. Therefore, the path of Bhakti was boldly declared by Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita as the highest path to achieve him. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato nyatva vishate tadanantaram. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me, by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. The culminations of all paths of yoga lies in Bhakti Yoga. All paths of yoga are a means to achieve the end goal of bhakti. If one is so fortunate enough to come to the point of Bhakti Yoga, it means he has surpassed the achievements of all other yogas. So please start your Bhakti Yoga journey today by studying, by purchasing the Bhagavad Gita as it is of Srila Prabhupada, and go towards the highest path which is recommended by Krishna and achieve the greatest success in your life. Hare Krishna.